A series of investigations and lawsuits regarding the 2024 election have been launched over the last week. Most recently, former President Donald Trump's campaign filed a lawsuit against the Bucks County Board of Elections, stating that voters were turned away from the election office before Tuesday's 5 p.m. deadline to submit voter registration or mail-in ballot applications. However, his efforts didn't end with the lawsuit. Instead, the former president took to social media, which political science professor Sarah Niebler says is one reason voter fraud has become a concern. A post on Wednesday from the former president's Truth Social is just the latest in recent days, saying there's already issues with the election in Pennsylvania.
There have, always been some allegations of voter fraud or voter misconduct, but I do think that former President Trump's rhetoric and the fact that he's making a lot of these claims, given the platform that he has, I think that has elevated it in terms of the number of people who have heard about it, the number of people who are worried.
Governor Shapiro responded to former President Trump's post, saying that Pennsylvania election clerks are doing their jobs correctly in an attempt to reassure voters while discrediting the former president's accusations. Niebler says these interactions can widen the divide that already exists in our polarized political world.
These allegations, they're never about the system as a whole. They're always directed at the other or the opposing party. And so I think it certainly furthers the division there.
On Wednesday, a judge sided with Mr. Trump and granted an extension on in-person voting options in suburban Philadelphia, where voters say long lines and an unprepared election office deprived them of their vote. The issues don't end there. In just the last week, there have been more than 3 counties in Pennsylvania that have reported possible voter registration fraud. Election officials in Lancaster, York, and Monroe counties have flagged several voter registration and mail-in ballot applications for suspicious activity. In Pennsylvania, there have been 35 instances of proven voter fraud in the last 30 years, according to the Heritage Foundation. And in the nation, just over 1,500 have been fraudulent.
And especially given the number of votes that are cast in the United States in any given election year, the instances of fraud are in the single digits.
Which is why Niebler says these allegations can be misleading.
It's relatively easy to make allegations of voter fraud. Anyone can kind of go and say, this is fraudulent. It's quite another thing to prove it.
County election officials continue to look into the claims, but are exercising caution when it comes to confirming whether or not submitted Pennsylvania voter documents are fraudulent. For voters who want to check on their registration or mail-in ballot progress, vote.pa.gov has that information and more, and we have a link to that website on ours at fox43.com. Sydney Nauman, Fox 43 News.